This is so much a relief for me, knowing that it's not just me or that I am a special. I know I'm special, but like incredibly special that I can't even hook up an amp to the cabinet. So that's great to hear. Um, by the way, so I think that with this, so I don't have at home the Capture X. What I have is, well, hold on. I have this. So that's the part that can do what I have on the screen. So the software that is running on the PC is called Genome. It's from the same company, the two nodes. And that thing cannot talk to the, well, hold on. Well, it says to speaker, so I think that it says when using an amp, ensure a settable cabinet or load box is connected here. So, well, I think I will have to revise the documentation for this because I thought that I thought that cannot do the same as Captor X. So basically, the way I understand is that this Opus can do exactly, well, almost exactly the same what the Genome can do for me, and I can load. So basically, you can buy. So inside two nodes, it's a store. Oh, hold on, let me just disconnect this. So let me open the. And here basically, yeah, that's this captor thingy, which I have no clue what it does. I have the Opus. My attenuator is just like a Iron Man 2 Mini, so it cannot change IRs. And here, what I like the most about it is that here you have the Dyne IR virtual cabinets. And if you buy something here, you will have it inside the Genome software, and you will have it inside the Opus. So for me, it's just the ease of use. It's the best because nothing stops you from getting your own IR somehow from somewhere. But this is all inside the inside the the software. So you just select from the list. I don't care how do you load this, etc. Just drop down list, select, bam, done. But does it make any sense? Like, hold on, let me just understand what you're saying. So you have a box, which is, well, it's called Captor X, but that's the box basically. It's like an attenuator, and what you're saying is that inside the attenuator, you are minimizing the load. So the amp would like to be loud as fuck, and you want to play at home, so you use the attenuator to minimize the loudness. But your Capture X thingy can not only do the attenuation, but it can also load the ER on the go. But explain me, how would that even work? I mean, it's a Hesu fucking retarded speaker which has an issue. So if you would change the ER on the go to I mean, you will load IR, but you will still connect to the Hesu cabinet. So at the end of the day, you would get crap. No? Am I? So what would be point of loading this into the Hesu? I don't get it. What I do get is that I bought this one, and it makes more. I mean, this is one speaker. I think 12-inch speaker inside the tonexcab, and it's like it's prepared to be loaded. Well, it's an FR speaker, so as versatile as it can get. So you can load the here. You have 8 presets here. You have a knob for the preset, and here you can load your up to 8 IRs. So what I was doing is that I was getting the signal line out from the fireball. From this fireball, it was going into the Tonex cab using uh, just a single jack, and then from the Tonex XLR to the PC, to the interface. And here the IRs. Mano. Ah, tigres, le tigre. And you have 8 IRs inside. And also, I mean, it boggles my head a little bit because, but in case of FR, I do get it. So the speaker is versatile, so it can mimic all kinds of responses of some speakers. So for that kind of speaker, you can load I don't know, like a Mesa cabinet or an engl cabinet, and it should sound similar. And for me, fuck yes, it sounds fucking awesome. I have uploaded the IRs into this from OWnHammer, and it sounds great. It sounds amazing. You know, almost unbelievable that it sounds that great. While this Hesu sounds how it sounds. It sounds really not to my liking, and I don't understand how would that help if you would change on your Captor X. You would load the IR, but you will still be listening it through those Hesu demons, which have incredibly high trebles. So how would that work? Yeah, but the speaker is still Hesu demon, so it still sucks balls. Even if you load the IR of I don't know, angle, let's say. Too many. I'm doing too many things at the same time. So it still has to demon speaker inside the cabinet. Okay, you can load as many IRs as you want into your Captor X, but at the end of the day, it still has to demon inside. Whereas inside the StoneX cab, there is a speaker which, by default, it should be comfortable to mimic as many IRs as there are. Whereas this Hexodemon is gonna be always Hexodemon no matter what. I mean, you can load different IRs, but it's still gonna be Hexodemon, which is extremely high in the treble area. Oh, torpedo is to bypass the cab. Oh, oh, I get it. Okay, so okay, now I understand. I think I understand. But it also okay. So I did exactly what you have done using the Tonex cab, more or less, and that part. So that was the reason why I didn't want to buy. Now I think remember the Captor X, because I thought that I'll just get the line straight from angle Fireball to the interface, and I can do all that mumbo jumbo IR bullshit inside the genome, because the genome will be loading the IRs for me. So you have a hardware solution. Well, actually, I can connect the guitar here as well, and this will load the IR as well for me. It does not have as many effects as the genome has, but it has the amp, it has the power amp, right? Yes, it has the power amp, it has the preamp. I need to figure out what's with the two speaker and from amp. Yeah. Well, I don't want to do too many things because today for me it feels like I have made a trip around the globe. So for me, I'll just chill out for the rest of the day. But it's so refreshing, so nice to see all the other opinions that you have the same issues like me. Yeah, I do agree because yeah, exactly. Carno Vector. So when I was back then, when I was watching those YouTubers when they are presenting the equipment, and now I get it. Well, I know that they are well. They might be paid. They might not be paid. But the thing is that I watched this movie from Ola like 5 times, and I was like, yeah, well, that sounds really good. That's what I want. I want exactly the same. I bought exactly the same stuff, the same microphone, the same cabinet, the same amp. I unpacked it. Shit, it does not sound the same way, you know. Fuck. And since then, uh, my opinion is this: they can make as much movies as they want, the YouTubers or the people that will try to sell you something. But at the end of the day, I will never again buy anything because somebody made a movie about it. I have to test it myself, just because on the video it sounds great, but in reality it's completely different story. And I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just thinking about it in a weird way, but the guy has recorded this in some special room, probably equalized room with some foams and shit like that, which I don't even have. Then he knows his stuff probably, well, not probably, way, way, way more than I do. Maybe he knows some tips and tricks around connecting all of the crap, and it sounds great. But then I'm trying to do exactly the same as he, and I get crap. I don't get it. So either he was doing some post effects, I don't know, in some DAV, or I have no clue. Either way, I'm very happy because of this tonexcab that can do the IRs now, and that I have ordered myself this engl cabinet. So I suppose that engl cabinet, because I read on the engl website that what I have ordered is actually what I just ordered is that I already bought it from the Two Notes shop. Um, so somewhere here there is this cab that I actually bought now physically. 112. Yeah. Uh, okay. So I bought. I actually no that's 212. Uh, okay, it's not here, but I know it's inside. Okay, maybe it's I'm not searching it correctly. But I bought this Angle 112 cabinet yesterday, And I did connect the cabinet IR inside the genome today. I hope in real life it will sound better than the IR that I had loaded. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, or like they compose the video with 4 tracks of audio, like they have recorded it 4 times, and then when you hear the ready movie, you're not even aware that actually those are 4 tracks with 4 different fucking microphones with 4 different fucking angles from different offsets and positions and whatnot. But that's what you get inside the genome, that you can push 2 microphones, you can position them, do some other magic. But for me, I just wanted to have a solution like the traditional amp plus cabinet that I can just power it without the computer, and it works. So hopefully I will manage to do it. And for now, I have also the Tonex connected to the tonexcab, and this shit just works. With this, man, your life is just fucking simple. It's like 2 plus 2 equals 4. No questions about it. It just fucking works, you know? And I get it. Look, it sounds a little bit artificial compared to the normal box, but it's great. It sounds great. It's a little bit artificial, but it's great. But then, when you connect the angle to the Tonex cab with IR loaded, then this sounds almost as a real setup, almost as real. It's fucking so it's so nice. But the Tonex with the Tonex cab, nah, you know, could be better. But this thing also has a, where is that thing? Uh, Preset volume. Hold on, I thought there was a. I'm not drunk. But there was this knob for sound, to make it sound more real. Hold on. It cannot be that I have lost a knob. Oh yeah, this is the amp tone. Yeah, that's the one. And what it does, this amp tone knob, it's like it adds. I'll show you. So with this amp tone knob, you can add this. Well, I don't know. I had no clue what is that, but it adds this reality factor inside. You know. So if you push it more to life, it feels almost. It starts to feel like a real cabinet with real amp. That's at least my feeling. Yeah. Yeah, like there is this guy called Spectre Sound Studios. If I'm not mistaking him, well, if I'm pronouncing his YouTube channel correctly, that's the dude that screams a lot. He's very specific because he yells to the microphone, you know. But either way, this guy, he knows his stuff, and he is on purpose showing people that you don't have to buy expensive things to sound great. He buys amps for like 100 bucks, and he turns them to sound like a Mesa Boogie or something like that. So it is possible, but like you are mentioning, guys, they need to know their stuff. Co? Jakieś nowe?
Mhm.
No.
Jak księciunia.
Nie.
Nie b, tylko
Wersji.
no już.
Mhm.
Już, bo zaraz będę krzyczeć. Kot nie mam w misce, Boże drogi.
Yeah, yeah. And basically, I was a sucker like that. Exactly. So I watched a bunch of YouTubes and, shut up, take my money. Shit. But okay, lesson learned. So I'm there. But it's funny because when you try to learn playing the guitar, you have a couple of aspects when when you're learning to play. One is that how I sound. So you always want to sound great, right? It's fucking Captain Obvious. I want to sound good. And for me at least, if I hear something that is not like I wanted, then for me, I can't focus on learning how to play the guitar because it sounds something off. So I spent like half of my life trying to. No, just kidding. I spent last year of trying to figure out how to sound best. Whereas now I know that I can just sell probably 80% of that hardware and it will be just fine. It will sound just good. And then the second aspect was that you can't sound great when you play if you don't know how to play. So there's another thing. So you need to even know how to play correctly in order to sound good. So even you can buy Marshall cabinets with Mesa Boogie heads, spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But again, if your articulation sucks, if your accent sucks, if your timing sucks, then it will sound as crap. So you have to do so many things. One, you need to focus on how to get the sound you like. Two, you need to still practice the guitar to learn how to play the fucking thing. That's a lot. That's a lot. You know, every kid that's like 6 7 years old and he listens to the Metallica for the first time in his life, he should be told it's harder than you think, my friend. You will regret it. I will Google this person. Okay, wow, we'll have a look later. for me, the most annoying part is that for for the for the majority of the time I spent with the guitar, I was doing this. Oh, you don't see it there. So I was not consistent with accents. So if you have four notes to play, and those are 16th notes, then you play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Always, you just always do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Always like that. But what I was doing for 20 years of my life, I was mixing. I thought like you are allowed to mix the shit out of it, you know? So instead of I could do, and this fucked me up royally. So for the last 3 years, I'm unlearning that, and I'm trying to focus on practicing with the same accent and not mixing them together. So for me, if I only would pay to some teacher, guitar teacher that would explain me this, I went to I think four or five different guitar teachers, and I asked them, hey, tell me what I'm doing wrong because it feels off. And nobody noticed that I was mixing those accents. So yeah, there goes the story about guitar teachers. Oh wow. Oh, oh. I think I will call it a day for the guitar, for the amps, for the ARs. I have enough for today. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's just so that you will not mixed up. You won't get mixed up. So if you are playing 16 notes, I don't care how you're gonna play them, but the accents will start on the first from the groupings of four notes. It has to be like that, right? So if you would do it up or down, but again, the accent has to be on the first note from the groupings of four. Or if you would have half notes, then you would be putting accents every second note, regardless if it will be up or down, but every second, and not on the first, on the third, on the fifth, on the seventh, but you would be mixing it like on the first, on the fourth, then on the fifth, on the seventh, on the eighth, on the 11th. So I had this problem that for me, I was so I was so stupid that I was not even aware that, well, I thought that it's allowed to change the speed of playing. Like you are allowed to change the speed of playing. But in reality, that's not allowed. You're not supposed to do that. I mean, yes, if you're doing this on purpose, that's fine. But if you're playing a song and the song is in 100 BPM, then the song is in 100 BPM, period. That's it. Nothing will change here. It's 100 BPM, all right? And I thought, oh, let me play that slower. Oh, let me play that faster. It's 100 BPM. You can't make it slower. You can't make it faster when you want. And the only way to play faster or to play slower during a song is to increase the division of notes. So if you have a whole note, then if you want to play faster than whole note, then it's half notes. So if you would choose to play half notes, then you are allowed to play two times in the same second. Then if you divide it even more, then you can play four times. Then divide more, then eight times. So it's still 100 BPM, but now you're forced to play eight notes during the same period of time. And I thought, oh, I can just play it fucking slower. No, you can't. You just need to. If you want to learn 16th notes, then just you would have to slow down the entire song from 100 BPM to, let's say, 50 BPM. But then again, the divisions will stay the same, whether it's 16 notes at the bar or you have 8 notes at the bar. But the speed is always the same. So for me, I had issues like that, in the I wanted to say in the beginning, but it's not in the beginning, but through my last 20 years. And also, what I have learned recently is that I understand now how important is to feel comfortable. O, wsiądę pedaleki, bo zaraz obiad. Już się napiłem. So first of all, that kind of dude, you need this one. And then, through the entire life, I was playing like this. On my left leg. So guitar was on the left leg. And what this position, well, at least for me, what is causing is that this hand naturally falls like that. Okay? And this complicates a lot. It really does. So first of all, I had no clue. So I went to like 5, 6 guitar teachers, and I was telling them, hey, listen, what the fuck is happening with my left hand? I can play. Jesteś cała? So your left hand, if the left hand wants to be relaxed, it won't be relaxed if you if it's gonna be like this, then it will never be relaxed. It will be relaxed maybe for the first minute or first 1.5 minute, but when you're trying to play songs like Dimmu Borgir and it's tremolo all the way, and you're doing like this, it's not sustainable. And all I had to do was get this. Now I'm it's not, I think it's parallel. No, yeah, but it's parallel, yeah. The guitar to my body, But now, if you will start turning your guitar like this, so from here to that, what will happen is that while the the fretboard is moving away from my body, right? What is also causing is that this hand, well, I will say it here. So this hand also changes, the position changes, and if it will, so that's how I figured out. Now the hand is parallel, let's say, to the fretboard, and not, and it can't be, it has to be like this, not that. And then I understood that actually, because for me it looked like the entire world plays on the right leg, not on the left leg. So I tried to figure out what's with the right leg. So I couldn't do that, and the reason why I couldn't do it is because I had no access to those frets here. I was not able to put my hand here. After I figured out what I was doing wrong, so now I can do it. I can touch them. And with this hand, see how it's completely different position for this hand now. So this hand, it's not like that, but suddenly it's this. This is way more comfortable. This hand is not tensed so much. It's way easier to be relaxed for this hand and for this hand. And if they are more relaxed, then you have more chances that you actually will hit the right groove, the right rhythm, the tempo, the speed, and so on and so on. You have to be relaxed. That's tip number one. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you have to be relaxed. With left hand, with your right hand, with your head, everything has to be relaxed. And it's hard to be relaxed when it's all tensed up. You just can't do it. And for this hand, if you are placing it like this, it's just more relaxed. That's one thing. And the second thing is that when you do the tremolo, so I was explaining this like, imagine that you're riding a bike, like a push bike, and your legs are doing this work. Like you're pushing the pedal, your feet, to move your bike down, right? Down and up and up. And you're riding your bike like this, right? But and that's the same with playing with your pick, up and down, up and down. But initially, what I discovered is that when you ride a bike, push bike, you push the force only from top to bottom, right? You push from top to the bottom. You don't push from bottom to top, right? Unless you are a pro rider, and you have a special shoes, and you have a special things for your shoes and the pedals, and then your shoes are glued to the pedal, so to say, and from then on your movement can make force when you push down and when you push up. So you are spinning it when you are even pushing up and down, up and down. And the same for me, it same happens with the pick. So it got way better when I realized that I don't push force only when it's from top to the bottom, but I had to learn to use force from bottom to top. And that, it's, I don't even know how to explain this, but the movement is not this. I thought the movement was that, right? Like, it makes sense, no? Like when you play chords, you're learning to move your palm like this, up and down, up and down. That's really not going to be sustainable for faster playing, because somebody explained on YouTube is that it's physics. If your movement is like this, then you can make it as twice as fast if you will sacrifice half of the movement. So imagine that your movement, you are let's say you are aiming at this string, right? And you are hitting the string like this. So in order to play twice as fast, you just need to make twice smaller movement. So not this, but this. And if you want to be even more faster, then you have to make this movement even smaller, like this. And then at some point you will figure that it does not make sense actually to do this. I mean, that's stupid. At some point it's just ridiculous. And you will notice that instead of doing this up and down, you are actually starting to do this, uh, like that. And this is this motion. I'm exaggerating because you would never do it like that. You know, you're just doing like a little bit, just like a little, tiny bit. And the thing is that it's easy to do it from top to the bottom. It's very easy, but it's unnatural to do it from bottom to top. That feels unnatural to me. But then I started to do it to do it more consciously, to be more conscious about it, so that I'm doing this on purpose. And for me, what this allows me is that when there are tremolo parts, this hand never fatigues. You know, it's always relaxed. And when I was used to do that, man, this hand is really losing power quite fast. And with this, it's easy. Anyway, I had a really lovely conversation with all of you guys. Really valuable insights. I will be reading your comments soon in my own time. But for now, my girlfriend has made the dinner, so I have to. Oh, I want to eat. I would like to wish you all great day, and it was really nice having you here with me and explaining me all those things. So that's awesome, guys. Wish you a great day. Take care. Bye bye.